Two of my favorite things in the whole world. Leaving parties without saying goodbye to anybody and never showing up in the first place. I have a quick informal poll. Should caricature artists have the same human rights as the rest of us? Most people vote no. I have mixed feelings. Initially, I was like, of course not. But then I was thinking, like, they do have a unique gift. They can go up to a complete stranger, and just by looking at you, they can guess which of the features on your face you're the most insecure about. And then they can draw a picture of you where they exaggerate that feature even more than you do in your mind. And then the best part is then they offer to sell you the picture. So that doesn't seem right. I used to work in offices a lot, and the last job I had, I got through a temp agency. They called me on a Friday and said they had an assignment for me starting the following Monday. And it had been a while since I worked in an office, so I thought I should probably do something over the weekend to prepare to get back into all the typing and filing and phone answering and whatnot. So what I did is I had a friend of mine go with me down to the local swimming pool, and I had him tie me up in a burlap sack and sink me to the bottom of the pool. And then right when I was about to suffocate, he yanked me up and gave me a lunch break. And then, well, guys, well, that's very, very sweet. You might be overreacting. At that job for one project, the whole basement was just file cabinets. So for one project, they had me go down there, and I filed every day, all day for 2 weeks straight. And at the end of that 2 weeks, it finally occurred to me, I'd probably be better off if I just went ahead and joined a cult. Because at least in a cult, when they suck the life force out of you, they throw in some group sex and a weird haircut. And that's kind of fun. Guys, I miss when Oprah was in charge. I really do feel like life was better when she was at the helm. I loved her. I still love her. She's not dead. And one of my favorite things that she did was that she would have guests on, and they would take complicated human psychology phenomenons, and they would put them into a simple phrase that everybody could understand. Like, one of the best ones was, and you might have heard it, it's hurt people, meaning people who've been hurt other people, so that if you know that, then when someone hurts you, you don't have to take it personally. You can just think, well, someone hurt them too. And I think that's really true and helpful. But I also like to daydream of a rogue Oprah who was just commanding housewives, hurt people. They came out with a movie about those guys that were trapped in a mine in Chile for 2.5 months. And when they finally rescued them, they all at first told reporters that they had sweared to never talk about what had happened down there. And the reason they did that is because they were poor, and they thought that if they banded together, they could force the networks to pay them to tell their story. And they really needed the money, especially because they had just taken 2.5 months off from work. And so, but that's the reason that's why they said that. But some journalists speculated that the secrecy was because they had had sex with each other down there. And I thought that was really crazy. But then I thought about it for a while, and I was like, you know what? We could all picture ourselves going up to one of our coworkers and being like, hey, Carlos, I know that it's been over a month since any of us have seen a shower or a toilet, and we're probably not going to get out of here alive, but I was just wondering, are you horny at all? I was in a minor car accident not too long ago. It was during rush hour, so luckily we weren't going very fast, and this lady rear-ended me, and we both pulled over, and I got out of my car, and she didn't get out of hers. She just leaned out of her SUV and said, "You're okay, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And then she started to get back, just close the door like she was going to drive away, which kind of made me mad, so I yelled at her and was like, "What are you doing?" And she leaned back out and said, "What's your problem?" And I said, "Well, you ran into me. Aren't you at least going to apologize?" And she said, "Well, I didn't do it on purpose. That's why they call it an accident." And then I was kind of flabbergasted, and I was like, I know what accident means, A, and B, still when people accidentally run into each other, a lot of times they go, "Hey, I'm sorry I hit you." And then she goes, "Well, if you'll recall, the first words out of my mouth were, 'Are you okay?'" And then I said, "I do recall your first words, ma'am. And I also have a prediction for what your last words might be, which is, 'Help, I'm being choked, and I kind of asked for it.'" I'm gonna do a character that I'm working on, and it's called The Lady Who's Had It With Stuff. Okay, so you know what? I've had it with putting gas in my car. How many times am I gonna have to go through this? That's... I've also really had it with traffic, and not just heavy traffic, I've also had it with light traffic. It's scary. Where is everybody? Did something happen? And then the last thing, and it's the worst, I've really, really had it with people who impatiently wave at me to cross the street in front of them at a stop sign. Motherfucker, I don't answer to you. Okay? You go. I always wanted to know what it feels like to be one of those super organized people, and so a couple weeks ago I cleaned my whole apartment, and I put all my stuff in boxes, and that felt kind of interesting, so then I went and got a label maker, and I put labels on each of the boxes according to what was inside, and so now I just have this box of razor blades that says Plan B on it. So that's not, it's kind of too much, ma'am. I'm not confident about this outfit. I'm kind of changing from my old style was a mom who got fed up and left the family camping trip early. And then the new style that I'm trying for is newly divorced mom pretending to be a good sport about getting back into the swing of things. I was thinking recently about the human race and how messed up we are, and I think it's because we have a split personality. Like, on the one hand, we're predators, and so we kill and eat animals, and we also can be really ruthless and cruel to each other. And then we also, on the other hand, we have this great capacity for empathy. Like, some of us are vegans, and that British lady on the internet who has a pet bumblebee. So it made me realize, like, we really are the absolute best and worst of all the animals put together. And so, like, for an example, in ways that we're the worst, in the worst column, we're the only species that imprisons other members of our species, which is awful. But then in the best column, right now, we're the only species working on prison reform.